Welcome to this symposium on innovations in Korean and American social welfare through cross-cultural collaborations. My name is Edward Canda. I'm a professor in the University of Kansas School of Social Welfare and the organizer of the symposium. The symposium was held on April 7th, 2011 at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas. This video offers the presentations of all 4 scholars plus an audience discussion session at the conclusion. This slide features a photograph of a rose of Sharon flower named Mugunghwa, meaning eternity flower in Korean language. This is the national flower of the Republic of Korea, and it's also popular here in the USA. This Mugunghwa bush grows in my home garden. I begin the symposium with the image of Mugunghwa in order to represent the blossoming of social welfare innovations through Korean and American collaborations. This symposium was sponsored primarily by the University of Kansas Center for East Asian Studies and supported by a federal Title VI grant. It was co-sponsored by the KU School of Social Welfare and the International Social Work Student Organization. I give special thanks to Professor Megan Green, Director of the Center for East Asian Studies, and to her staff for wonderful support and encouragement that made the symposium possible. Thanks also to Dean Mary Ellen Condrat of the School of Social Welfare, to the Shoemaker Family Foundation, and to the International Social Work Students Organization for additional support. The purpose of the symposium was to share the insights of Korean and Korean American social welfare scholars who have extensive experience as people who innovate by collaborating across Korean and American contexts. The presenters give examples of their social welfare innovations, and they suggest principles for successful cross-cultural collaborations leading to innovations in culturally appropriate social welfare. The 4 symposium presenters were Daniel Buduk Lee, DSW, Professor Emeritus of Loyola University, Chicago, USA; Kyung Kim, PhD, Associate Professor of Soongsil University, Seoul, Korea; Yoon-sun Peter Ko, PhD, Associate Professor of Hallym University, Chuncheon, Korea; and Sung-hee Park, PhD, Professor of Sungkyunkwan University, Seoul, Korea. These 4 presenters are people who I admire, respect, and appreciate for their wisdom, creativity, kindness, and tireless commitment to the field of social welfare and to East-West collaborations. I thank them very much for their wonderful contributions to this symposium. I would like to set a tone for the symposium through the symbolism of the stone mandala that's featured in the slide. I constructed the stone mandala in my backyard garden. The word mandala comes from the Sanskrit language. It means circle. Mandalas are designs used commonly in Hindu and Buddhist traditions to represent the interconnectedness, harmony, and unity of diverse and complex aspects of the cosmos. Mandalas and mandala-like patterns are commonly found in Korean traditional arts. In English, the term mandala is used more widely to refer to any similar kind of design that represents these themes of interconnectedness, harmony, and unity. As the renowned Swiss depth psychologist Carl Jung pointed out, many other cultures make this kind of symbolic design also, such as in Christian stained glass rose windows and Native American medicine wheels. Jung also noted that mandala-type designs were produced by psychotherapy clients in order to depict their spiritual journey toward wholeness. My stone mandala is very simple in form. The circular mound is ringed by stones with 4 additional stones pointing outward to east, south, west, and north. In the center, at the peak of the mound, is a stone pointing upward, representing connection between sky and earth. This mandala represents respect for all things and all aspects of life in their variety. It also honors their interconnectedness, commonality, and unity. It's a symbol of peace. In the background of the mandala are 2 Korean guardian statues, who look over it with friendly gaze. I hope this mandala reinforces the symposium's ideal for innovative Korean and American collaborations in social welfare.
Thank you, Dr. Ed Canda, and good morning. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be part of this symposium. My topic and my content will take about 15 hours. But Ed reminds me there are other excellent speakers, so I will just overview from my reflection of 4.5 decades as Korean-American student, practitioner, and a scholar. I have gone through so many phases of my own development, particularly interfacing East and West. Turn of 20th century American writer once said, because of striking differences in geographical distance, East and West would never meet. But I think we will say he was short-sighted, because now we know that the convergence is taking place between East and West. Let me highlight from my presentation here. I looked over my trace of past, find out there are 10 striking segments of my involvement. And list goes here: transcultural relations with the special attention given Korean-American military intermarriage and family relations. As you know, turn of World War II, many American soldiers stationed all over the globe, and particularly in Korea after Korean conflict, influx of a Korean woman marrying American GIs. And nobody has looked at that phenomena. So I jump into that and then spend the next 10 or 20 years studying and serving those populations. And so that's first group. Second group, as a practitioner, I was as a family counselor and also mental health social work officer in the U.S. Army Medical Service Corps. And I have seen so many people having stress in adjusting to different land, custom, and the mental health issues, particularly not only in terms of those populations, but also international students coming for last 4 decades. As a student advisor at Ohio State and Loyola University, I have seen so many students' families going through just some difficulties. And then third group, of course, Korean immigrants. Influx of Korean immigrants started in 1972 when immigration law relaxed in terms of country of origin. And so communities of Korean ethnic immigrants certainly having many issues to deal with. Their accommodations, their ethnic identity, so forth. And then I found the transnational adoptees who were struggling for their own search for their own identity and cohesion. Another issue that I saw was that, as you know, about 2/3 or more Korean immigrants are members of Korean churches. That's where social support and many cushions from their emotional alienated the environment. And yet that the Korean churches are going through a lot of dissensions and conflict. So I have involved as a United Methodist ordained clergy. In that capacity, I was able to engage as well as a coordinator of MSW MDB dual degree program at the Loyola University. I have looked into the church issues. And then more strikingly, over almost span of 60 years plus, over 10 million Korean divided families from North Korea has never been able to connect their family origin. As you know, Korea is very much family culture, and yet that somehow ancestral worship and the intergenerational continuity has been broken because they never communicate between North and South. And this population has been lost and not given enough attention. And then another group that I have seen is that many scholars, many international students are coming from Korea to social work programs. As a Korean American Social Work Educators Association, I served 2 terms of a presidency and established the exchange program between Korean scholars in Korea and Korean scholars in the United States. And also I have opened up Loyola International Institute for training for social workers. So I have brought hundreds of Korean practitioners to Chicago in terms of their advanced training. And then again, I have seen lately many Koreans and Americans are looking at the integration of spirituality and the religious faith. And this is an emerging concern. And I have involved in research in looking at the convergence model of Buddhist and Christian belief system. And lastly, I have involved in globalization of interdisciplinary collaborations as one of the founders of the Global Awareness Society International, which is interdisciplinary scholars meeting, have had about 18, 19 years of international conferences, bring all disciplines. So those areas that I have involved, and here, because of time, I only highlights here. The frameworks I have looked at, you have looked at about 3 areas. One is underlying theoretical perspectives. Going through these segments of population I served, what are some of the underlying theoretical perspectives? And then what are some of the models, intervention models, particularly Korean American social welfare, social work? And there must be guiding principles of cross-cultural collaborations. And those are 3 dimensions I have tried to outline. First group, I will just highlight a few points here because of timing. Transcultural family relations. At Canda, Professor Canda was the first students I had at the Ohio State University who had a wealth of good scholarly background. And he collaborated my research and my work in this area. As you know, multicultural family issues are popping up now in Korea, but the 1950s, 60s, 70s, actually issues was more intermarriage among GIs and the Korean woman population, and then also international adoption. Those are 2 transcultural family groups that I have involved in pioneering such a field. And I found that the push and the pull dynamism, because American society was undergoing tremendous upheaval because of gender issues and many feminist movements and women's rights. And no longer they wanted to see less than equal. And so many American men were looking for spouse who are subservient. So the Asian market, spouse market, opened up. Here, I think, as I look at the phenomena of post-World War migration patterns all over the world, the U.S. military served tremendous forces to bring population to the United States. And this is a pull and push dynamism. And also needs and demands. There are a lot of Asian women need to be liberated from dominance of a male system. And then American males provided opportunity for education, for further growth. And then social exchange. Of course, they needed emotional partnership, and they needed material partnership. So there are a lot of theories could be underlining these behaviors. And also globally, you look at this phenomena, I see transcultural processes. It's intimacy, overcoming cultural barriers, communication barriers in an intimate relationship. That is marriage and also adoption. Those two are very important laboratory of examining transcultural processes. Having said, I have already spent 10 minutes. So I will give first a few examples, and the rest you can read, okay? And then discussion later you can pick up. What are some of intervention models? Advocacy was very important, and also cultural mediation. I mediated between commanders and the soldiers and the spouses and the Korean community and the spouses. There are many mediations, the layers mediations. And empowerment, of course, they need to be empowered. And action research. It's not just scholarly research that only produces certain publications, but here you need real action research. So I involved all the military installations. Where are those Asian spouses? What are their needs? What are the command structures in terms of whether they are sensitive or not? For example, hospitals, they are hospitalized, but their meals served either coffee or bread. When you regress, you need your own ethnic food. So I asked the policymakers, you better have Korean food, Asian foods in commissaries. Policy implication was there. So I was very happy to see that's changing. In Hawaii, for example, only you one simple few people can be invited to visit the patients. But Samoa people always come as group. They didn't have a space. So I asked the command, create room for the community camp to heal, for example. So a lot of policy, action research, and also they needed a social networking. It was very important. And what are some of the guiding principles here? Cross-cultural awareness for all the mental health personnel, nurses, doctors, social workers, or other caretakers, including chaplains. They needed a cross-cultural awareness training. And also cultural competence. All the practitioners need to have undergoing a lot of trainings in this area. More importantly, social justice. I don't have time to go into that. And likewise, I didn't provide you references, but I have references. Later on, perhaps I can provide that to you. I have a few minutes left. Am I right?
3.
3, okay.
We're actually 8.
8? Okay. Second example, mental health at the risk population. A lot of acculturative stress affecting immigrants, students, and also military spouses, as well as adoptees. And many studies look at acculturative stress impacting on their mental health, relationship, their health. And there are a lot of issues deal with the cognitive dissonance because their frame of mind, their cultural codes, thinking patterns are already culturalized, culturalized and socialized. It really takes a while to reprocess. So cognitive dissonance theory provides a tremendous reference points to understand why. For example, Christmas time, American husband wanted to spend the money to have a Christmas tree decorated. But Korean mother wanted to buy milk because only budget they had was to buy baby's milk. But husband wanted to have a Christmas tree. They were fighting. Cultural codes were not the same. Either of them were right from their perspective. So I have to provide some way of helping them to have a consonance. What is priority? How we can minimize? The issue was resource. So I asked them to visit their parents-in-law, provide some funds so they can have both Christmas tree and milk. You, you getting it? Otherwise, they will broke. They will be unhappy, depressed, and they might go to court for divorce. Well, social isolation losses, depression, psychotic, all others. I give you example. One Air Force sergeant promised that he would provide some help for his wife's ailing parents. Happened to be her father was blind. She had 2 sisters, and the contract was that one, if she married him, that he would provide at least the essential survival support. And somehow the commander said that you had to spend enough time in Korea, you had to move to States. At this point, it really made it difficult for wife to separate her ailing father and the 2 young sisters. But he promised 1 year later, I will come back. And upon arrival in the United States, it was not 1 year, it was 2 years. And she decided to jump out of a car when they were driving to a shopping mall. And then she was not killed, but the psychiatrist find out from her action, if she couldn't go by her physical body, if she dies, her soul could travel to her ailing father. Can you imagine? I was crying. So my empathy, the psychiatrist called command, said, send her back home. And so compassionate reassignment was made. And make sure you come to the mental health clinic as soon as they arrive Korea, and had seen by myself. And I presented to Psychiatric Association in Korea, so-called modern Chuncheon legendary. Many of you do not know the Chuncheon legendary. She was Chuncheon. At any rate, it was a very interesting case. Well, where am I? Social welfare intervention models, of course, cross-cultural competence was not taught any schools that time. Crisis intervention theory was taught. It was very important. Command authority consultation was needed in military structure. Social support and group work was very essential. And lastly, I will just highlight some of the principles here. You have to bring interdisciplinary team in order to provide. I don't have time to go into. When I was doing my reserve duty at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center, I was consulting the psychiatric department. And the case, she was admitted because of a psychotic reaction. Her neighborhood accused her, but somehow the psychiatric team didn't really understand her cultural background. So, well, at any rate, my intervention made it easier through the sensitizing the mental health team. And again, cultural congruency was very important, and the healing process, and collateral support. And there was a lady who had a orthopedic problem, but she had a mental ability was very normal. But the patient who had a psychotic break, she certainly was highly drugged. So another person was taking her to different places. So collateral support was shortened her hospitalization. Within a very short period, she recovered, not by so-called the group psychotherapy at the ward, nor medication, but through the collateral support. She was really progressively healed. Environmental sustainability is very important. That's why I linked to Korean churches for Korean communities. And also adopted families now brought to Korean language schools and also cultural events. Many adoptive families benefited from there. And I also took many youth and young adult adoptees to homecoming, experimented as a participant research. I don't have time to illustrate this. But again, those are some of the highlights that I like to share with you. All others, please take a look at the presentations. Well, now future direction, I believe that we need to strengthen global social welfare through cross-cultural collaboration between Korea and the United States. I have involved in a global awareness society activities, as well as now I'm involved linking all the mother churches of United States, Hawaii, and Korea to link so that they restructure their mission. And also I'm linking all the Christian faith associations in North America, Japan, and Korea, linking them in a global federation of Christian social work. Of course, later I would certainly interfaith federation movements. So that's what I'm involved here. So I think we need to go beyond from our experience in Korea, US, in many fields. I think we can open this to China, Japan, and many other countries, because no longer we can confine our works regionally. I think we have implications for global processes. And thank you very much. Yes.
When you first started talking, you talked about how the break in, like with the ancestral worship and that was all broken.
Yeah.
Is there a way to repair that, or what will be done? Will it?
Okay. I wrote a letter to then Senator Simon. He was the chair of a foreign relationship. He was on the way to North Korea. And I wrote a very comprehensive journal article regarding this issue. And he was regretful because he didn't have time to read. Upon arrival, he read, and he really regretted that he didn't read before he met with the North Korean. Red Cross was involved. North Korea, because of a security issue, there is a human geography theory, topophilia, love of Earth. It's not just the people that you are long for. When you are growing up, you love of Earth and the village, and it has to combine both. But the North Korean people were only insisting they come to one location, away from their nativity. And also only limited number, symbolically. So over more than half century, there's only one country on earth they didn't have a freedom to visit their families. It is in Peninsula, Korea. And I have taught the family therapy, particularly intergenerational family issues, for three decades. And I'm well aware of emotional disconnecting and what the impact this has mental health. And I don't have time to give you examples of significant negative mental health implications from this. This alone will take a one-day seminar. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please.
You talked about a concern that you have with the cross-mixing of religion, like Buddhist and Christianity.
Yeah.
What type of concerns were you?
I spent a year and a half in Japan, Kyoto, where the Japan is certainly Eastern Mecca of Buddhism. Of course, Shintoism is overlaid, but the Buddhist practice is very strong in Japan. When it comes to death, the last stage of life cycle, there is more close interfaith of faith, interface of faith, that is Christianity. And so my premise was a convergent model, converging Buddhism and Christianity, looking into how they approach death and dying. I find out from my data there are more closeness between this religion than differences. Again, this topic is very interesting, and I'm writing a book on this currently. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Hi, my name is Kyung Kim, and then nice to meet you, and then thank you so much giving me this generous opportunity to present. I never expected that I present here, since I was a doctoral student from 1998 to 2003, so I never expected to present here, but this is really good to me. And I want to present today innovation in Korean American social welfare through cross-cultural collaboration. My area is disability, so I only focus on the disability, especially physical disability. First one, I want to talk about how I engaged in cross-cultural learning and collaboration. This is my 25 years career. I just summarized 3 slides. So I got the BA and MA bachelor degree and the master degree in Korea in social work. At that time, I started in 1980. At that time, most faculty members study in US, so we studied the same material like US, same textbook with the US. But I always thought maybe there is really gap between education and practice, because when I learn from school, I learn case work or family therapy or group work. But when I go to field, there is no field. There is only field who had like the orphanage house at the time 1980, and I think adoption agents. There is only 2 agencies in social work in Korea formally. So I wonder how I can apply my learning to field. So always I'm curious about how social work that I learned from school apply to field. And I got a job at the disability agency after MA. And then at that time, I can only see people with a disability on the street. It means they are beggar. Or if I visit residential care during the Christmas or during some event, I can only see them at the residential care. So every society in Korea, you cannot see people with disability. They are hiding from society. And I work at the agency, and I saw some people, but many people see them very poor and then miserable stage. Like Mike Oliver said, this paradigm is maybe personal tragedy of theory. So if you have a disability, that's the tragedy. So individual model of disability, I said the medical model of disability was very popular in 1990, 1980, almost 2000. It means the cause of disability of yours. So you have to fix your problems through physical therapy or any other therapy with the help of social workers. So professionals have really high power than people with disability. And also society do not have to do nothing. Just rehabilitation model is focused on the people have to be work really hard to become better person, to function very well with the help of people with the help of professional. This model was very popular, and everybody, if they see the people with disability, they just feel, oh, how pity you are, and then they feel very sorry about them, but they never think about how society accommodate their needs. So I was very confused. I was very curious what kind of perspective I can have, because I only know the medical model of disability or individual model of disability. So I decided to go to study in U.S. because I really need a new perspective, new paradigm, new paradise, whatever, to view people with disability differently. So I decided to study KU, and my study started in 1998, and I finally work at the Research and Training Center on Independent Living. It's in KU, but it's run by Applied Behavior Science, not social work. But I have really good chance to work there as RA, so I know about the independent living and social model of disability. So I learned about the social model of disability by myself, and then many faculty members at the center, and then many staff has disability. And I never see people as a staff or as my friend, as my advisor, but they are like me. They are not inferior than me. So I become my eyes become open about the disability issues. And 2001, Korean disability activists came to my center, the Research and Training Center, and I finally connect with them. So after finishing my study, I go back to Korea, and then I start work with them to change my society. So I think I am so lucky because while I'm staying in US, I learn about the IL means independent living for people with disability, and the personal assistance services. I work a lot of my project related with this, so I know about what is the independent living and what is the personal assistance services. Personal assistance services just means people need help to get more independent, not dependent. So like if I have arm, somebody can write instead of me. That's the personal assistant can do. So I learned a lot of things from US about how this model work, and then how the new concept can apply for the disability. So that's the really good experience. I was so happy to learn new perspective and the new model. So I was very happy. And then I finished my study. I go back to Korea 2004. But this is really coincidence. Korea start independent movement as well as CEAS same time. So after I finished my study, I was so busy because I have to a lot of consult work and I have to work with them because I know how it works already from the US experience. So I can give a lot of examples. But I think the meaning of independence, maybe the Professor Lee said that there is the cultural differences. In Korea, we are more focused on dependence or interdependence instead of independence. So many people ask me, what is independence? Do I have to live? Do I have to live by myself, or can I live with my parents? Is it okay? It can be a dependence or independence. There are tons of questions to me, but I think the meaning of independence, essential meaning of independence is same, like the control over your life. Not just whether you live with your parents or not. That's not a big important, I think. But I think operation or applicability is very different across the culture. So I have to adjust to make new policy to Korea. So new policy or new services have to be culturally appropriate. So I have to work through a lot of people so long. This is how I engaged in cross-cultural learning. The main factors that contributed to cross-cultural collaboration and innovation, I can say two things: work with the people with disability activists usually, and then government office. I work with people with disability, give a lot of information, and also give them how to persuade the government office in many ways. And also I have to work with the government officer because they have to set up the policy. They have to have a vision what the policy looks like. So I give them evidence from my research or from research from US or other countries. So I can give actual data and then other countries' examples. Every society is so different. Like when I visited Sweden, they give the mothers of children with disability can be assistant. But in US, that never happened, because US is more focused on the competition and independence. But compared to Sweden, US less evaluate the woman's labors. But the Sweden is they more highly evaluate the woman's work. So they want to pay for mother work, even though mother take care of their kids. So every society is different. So I can give you some lot of examples, and then we can have our own model based on the other countries' examples. And also I work with consumers, it means people with disabilities. So I give the example of the policies, concept, and the approach to persuading government office through the history. And then, so I separate two groups, and then we have like the whole series of meetings with the people with disability, governmental officer, and researcher together. So there is like 20 more meetings because in Korea we have the 15 types of disability by law. So the representative by each type of disability can come to meeting to present their own needs. So we have lots of meetings, and then finally we set up the PAS services and then independent living model. And second one, I think main factors, work with the researcher in other country continuously and invite them to my country. It is really interesting story. My boss at the Research and Training Center visit Korea 3 times. Each time people kind of very surprised because if somebody already know about the independent living and then PAS, they just can have the model of the people with disabilities. So my boss become a model of disability, and then we can exchange ideas, concept, policy to figure out new policy. So I continuously work with the disability researcher in US and then ask a lot of questions to them because I do not know sometimes very detailed. So I ask them, and then I also invite them. So if just Korean people see them, they can get their idea or they can more convince to people in Korea. I mean, people from US researcher can convince people with just in Korea, I think, more strongly. So persuade the people of my country, professionals from our other countries. So we invite a lot of people from Japan and Sweden and US. So people in Korea know about the other countries' policy, and then they can accommodate their policy in the Korean context. Main challenge I experienced. I have 2 main challenge experience. First one, making policy applicable to my country because it have to be culturally acceptable concepts. So I wonder what is the independence versus dependence. What's the meaning? Because when I learn from US, that's totally different from my country concept. And then informal assistance versus formal assistant. In Korea, many people never use any babysitter. I never use babysitter personally, even though I'm studying here, because I thought all the time, because I'm a mom, I have all responsibility to take care of children. If I use babysitter, I will be bad mom, I thought. But when I talk with my friend, that's not right. But that's my concept, my country concept. But anyway, so informal assistant is very popular through a friend or family members. The formal assistant is not a good way because like many people say, you have a family, your family have to take care of you, not other people. If your family do not take care of you, your family is bad. That kind of concept everybody have, even the elderly people, is changed right now incrementally. But at the time when I started the PAS and then IL model, everybody said, how somebody can help me at my house? That's very strange. So original meaning can be changed a little bit, like the independent meaning can be changed a little bit in the Korean context. Also the formal assistant can be a little bit different. That's cultural competence policy will be, I have really good examples. One people have the visual impairment, but he want to run to be a marathoner. So he have to run 4 hours. So he asked the assistant to run together 4 hours every day. So one day assistant come to my office and then, this is my role to run together? He thought I supposed to help him. So he was confused. And then second different meaning, I think is from US, I think no one cannot take care of your kids without permission of parents. But in Korea, personal assistant usually take care of children of people with disability. That's the normal. It's okay. And then also I noticed that in UK medication you cannot give like assistant cannot give medication to people. But in Korea, medication can be distributed by anyone. Like the assistant can give the medication if you got the from drugstore or hospital. So that's okay. So we have to little bit change like around, a little bit change the content of the services actually within the context of Korean. And then second challenge that I'm facing is uncertainty. This is really huge challenge to me. Uncertainty of applying the concept of the policies to my country, because when I propose the PAS services, it just 100 people can have services, but next year it become 20,000. And it become later 40,000. So I was so afraid that I really propose good policy with the people with disability, or this is really good way, right way. So very much confused because I didn't have time to measure the outcome at the time. But policy just become bigger and bigger every year. Everybody needs become bigger and bigger because first time no one do not want to PAS, but whenever after using PAS, their needs become bigger and bigger. So policy size bigger, and but I cannot say this is really good. This is really good outcome. I cannot say so. That's I'm very afraid of. So, and then next one is final principle for cross-cultural collaboration for innovation. I can say two: respect own culture. Do not force other cultures' concept to apply to my concept. Like I said, independent meaning is different from Korea to US. So if you just force our like US model is the best. If I said to Korea, US model is best, we have to follow that model. If I say, many people will not, I think, agree with me. I always listen to them what they want in Korean context. So I kind of accommodate with their needs, with their thinking, because I'm Korean, I know very well. So that was very helpful. And then second, work with ordinary people. I think I usually work with the people with disability, not the professionals. So if I work just consumers, I can get their point of view, what they need, and then how can I accommodate their needs through the services. That is the best way to cross-cultural collaborations. I actually, since I came here January, I have a tremendous difficulties, emotional difficulties. So I went to hospital and then I met the doctor. Doctor told me immediately, you are so depressed right now. And then you have to go to counselor right now, right away. And then I hesitated. Since I'm a social worker, I never meet the counselor. So I'm kind of hesitating. Do I have to see counselor, do you think? And she said, so serious, yes, you have to counselor right now. You might die. And I said, okay. and I decided to go to counselor, but I see the counselor, she's a social worker, and I met her like for 50 minutes, and then I kind of curious after that, do I have to see her again? And then I met the doctor again, and then she said, do you meet the counselor again? Yes, I said, and then you have to meet again. Doctor told me, and then I said, I'm not sure. I have a really good friend. So I can talk with my issue with my friend. I have at least 3 or 4 friends to talk about my own issues. So, and they know me better than any other counselor. And doctor told me, no, you need a counselor. You have to talk people who are really see you objectively, not subjectively. So I said, I'm not sure. So I decided to quit the counseling. So that's my first year experience with the counseling one time. But in Korean context, many people do not have any counseling services. I survey actually how social work right now practice their social work practice. Many people work in direct practice through the distributing material or giving some social support or the coordinating services instead of giving counseling. So if you give counseling in Korea, that might not work very well. And then Korean people is very high temper, so they need very quick response. So in America, I think when I see a counseling, they say 15 minutes. I think I pay $100 because my insurance did not pay, and then 50 minutes. I said like whole my story, maybe among whole my story, 1% I did talk. So I have to meet 99% with her. So I have to pay a lot. But in Korea, it may not work because I said Korean people really need fast response. So the practice or counseling method have to change also in Korean context. Okay, this is my final presentation. So if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, questions?
Can I go ahead and ask
Yes,
questions?
please go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm working on my dissertation, and my dissertation topic is history of blind people in Japan. And you make very interesting observation in the beginning, especially in the beginning of your presentation, which is that when you go places, a lot of people with disability, they are hiding. Now, I have two questions to you. One is what are their own concept, or what are their own aspect of who they are and what they are? How do these people with disabilities in Korea currently, in modern time now, identify them? Second is that there are, when you look at the history of Korea, there are times that, for instance, Hallym visited, and then especially focusing on people who are visually impaired and deaf. Despite those influence, they still sort of take a submissive role. Are there any movement in Korea by the people who are actually disabled,
Yes.
trying to change that sort of a course of direction?
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. First question, it's hard to respond, so I will think. So I will do second question first. Said I actually wrote article about the disability movement in Korea and disabled women's movement in Korea both, and I realized that the disability policy in Korea is driven by disability activists, not the government officer or not the people without disabilities. So disability movement, I think, most strong in Korea than any other country, I can say. Like a PAS, personal assist services, I can give model or I can give how to operate, but actually they demonstrate for 40 days in front of the Minister of the Welfare and Society without eating anything. So actually after demonstration, after that government office decide to provide or establish the program. So without their movement, we cannot do anything. Korea right now rapidly development in disability area. Like in 2007, we have the law against the disability against law, the discrimination against the law. It also by people with disability activists. So and actually activists 1970 it was very less severe disability. So like one leg a little bit broke something. But right now it's changed from less severe disability to right now most severe disability become disability activist. So they are very strong. And then first question you said, who are they right now? How can they perceive themselves? I think society become change, but it's still, I think, some people have say they have pride as a disabled people, but not many people. But it become change because when I have the student with disability. He is 37, I think. He said when he entered the university, he was the hero of all Hmong disability because many people did not go to university. But he thought, so that's why he thought he's a hero, and then he wanted the model for everybody all the time. And then I think he asked one of the student, newcoming student, the undergraduate, 20 years old, asked me, how do you perceive yourself? He said, I just go to college because like everybody else go to college. He does not separate him from other people. So there is new kind of movement or new perspective from people with disability also. They want to more participate in society. But still they have a lot of the isolations and then exclusive things again, still. So that's why we need the movement continuously, I think.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ko from Hallym University in Korea. I really enjoyed two presentations already, especially Professor Lee's presentation. Through their presentations, I learned a lot. I was very close to go to the Ohio State University, and I could learn from him, and I'm a little bit regretting right now because he did a wonderful, rich, the theories and all those models and those things, and I really appreciate those underlying background information. Now, I found that it's very close connection between what Professor Lee presented and what I'm going to present, in that I'm going to give more specific data and my experience and what I learned from those experiences. Interestingly, even though we didn't talk about the presentations between Professor Lee and myself, the areas I picked up for the presentation was exactly matching some of the areas he presented. Obviously, he has rich experience in the field, and as a researcher and also as an educator. Actually, those main areas he was working so far have been also dealt with by myself and domestically, because I have been in Korea. He was in Korea and also United States. So I would like to start with my presentation with the content would be, I would like to give you a more specific the data, what's happening in Korea and how that things are connected with some of those Korean American social practice in United States. So I'd like to do some of the changes in Korean family, and specifically multicultural family in Korea. And multicultural family has many different families in Korea, but I would like to focus on the families from international marriage, which is a very strong new phenomena. Then I would like to do some study on the policies and services for those families, and then present a couple of principles which I found for the social work practice and policy, and we will have some questions and answers. Korean society and the Korean family has been going through huge changes, obviously, as you can imagine. The nuclear family would be the number one phenomena with the low birth rate. We started with 4.53 in 1970, and currently it's lower than 1.0. And aging society is another big phenomena that Korea is going through. It's world record. It's going through so fast that they're breaking any country's record right now. Divorce rate is very huge, and as you can see that in 1970 it was a 4.0, now it's 44.5. And all different kind of new types of family you can imagine also in Korea. the couple without children, single parents family, and elderly living alone, and family living separately, including international way, and also multicultural family. I picked up multicultural family in 4 areas. One was North Korean escapers, refugees and their families, and foreign workers and their families, and families from inter-country adoption, and then multicultural family with international marriage. I would like to give you some of the numbers so that you know it's important. Family issues in Korea, but how serious? And if you see that more than 1,000 people are coming to South Korea nowadays, and the last column in the red, the percent is the children, the composed of children. The percent is almost like around 15-16% of the children are the escapers. So you can imagine those individual escapers and also the children will have difficulties in Korea, obviously, with cultural in area. And also, if I look at briefly about foreign workers, very, very brief information would be, it started on around 1993, about 20,000 workers coming to Korea from China, Philippines, Vietnam, Bangladesh, those people. And by 2008, about 180 workers worked in Korea. But like in any countries, like United States, some people left, some people stayed in Korea, continuously working. Some people are working legally, some people are working illegally. So it's a half and half. About 90,000 people at the year of 2008, half of them are working legally, half of them are working illegally. So they obviously bringing some legal, cultural, and friend and family issues in Korea. Now, Professor Lee also talked about this issue, and personally myself, I worked as a social worker after my master's degree at the University of Wisconsin in family housing, with the family violence and child abuse and international family and scholar families issues and international student issues. And I've met many people who are adopted from Korea who are going through difficulties, including identity issues and family relationship issues. And I realized that there are so many adopted children, and now they are young adult in the United States. So to give you some number here, it's not small numbers. Between 1958 to 2008, more than 160 children, Korean children, are adopted internationally, mostly European countries and United States and Australia and New Zealand. International adoption was almost 70%. So it's much more children are adopted internationally than domestically. Now, the big phenomena right now is the inter-country marriage. It started with, as Professor Lee said, the Korean ladies married American GIs. The Korean lady had a special need. Their needs are met through the American GIs. Now it's opposite. Asian ladies, and they found Korean men, and Korean men provide what they need. So it started from that GI marrying Korean ladies, but now a lot of the ladies are from different Asian countries are coming to Korea to marry. If see all those numbers, but in 2005, about 13.6% of all marriages were international marriage. Most of them are the ladies the marrying Korean men. If you look at the countries, China is the number one. More than in 2008, more than 1,300 the ladies married Korean men. Japan, United States, Philippines about 2,000, Vietnam about 8,000, Thailand, Russia, Mongolia, and together 28,000 the international marriage. About 90%, more than 90% are the ladies marrying Korean men. If you look at the countryside, the farmers and fishers, Korean men, about 40% of Korean countryside men married internationally in the year of 2005 and 6 and 7. So you can imagine if you go to countryside or farming areas and the area, a lot of people are international marriage. I have been an advisor for the state, Gangwon-do, that's the kind of the state, to the governor for last 3 years to develop the programs, the policies, including family and children's issues, including this particular multicultural issues, because there are so many difficult issues. I put some numbers over there. For now, children are growing from the multicultural family, the children from workers, children from North Koreans. Now it's another challenge for the whole school system, for the grade school system, that from elementary school, kindergarten to elementary and middle school and high school, because the children from multicultural family has such a high, more than 5 or sometimes even 10 times higher the dropout rates among those population. Korean government has been very active to set the very comprehensive the programs and policy. One of them is called Seromaji plan, and it's very comprehensive plan. Every 5 years they prepare and project the population, and they provide very long-term integrative services to the children and families, including these multicultural families. There are many agencies and services. I put only 5 major centers. Number 1 is the Health Family Center. The second one in the blue, Multicultural Family Support Center, which we have about 150 centers across the country. And then Community Children's Center is the front. It's very front. The center, very small scale, but it's also provide integrated services to the children right after school, and they provide education and health and recreational services. Now we have, I think it's almost 4,000 right now. I did 2 years evaluation last year for Gangwon-do myself as a PI, and we found a lot of progress and also challenges in this area. It's very, very important area, provide services for multicultural families and children. START centers, it's an interesting program that is similar to Head Start in United States and Sure Start in England. So we developed our Korean version of a START program called We Start. And it was a wonderful program that Korean government adopted this principle and model, and then they developed Dream Start right now. So it's about 100 Dream Start across the country. And there are many other agencies for the children, family, including 4 adoption agencies. Now if I look at some of the roles of this Multicultural Family Support Center, which is the major the agency for multicultural family, as Professor Lee suggested, there are a lot of acculturation stress and empowerment issues, and also those needs and demands and those kind of things. So we have a language education class, very intensive, 2 wives or ladies from different country, and also children. And then we have family support group for the ladies, or couples, or sometimes family. So there are different kind of self-support groups too. And then child care are provided, and the education for the children if they need some additional help, family services for the family violence, and also child abuse issues. They provide the help, and including under the umbrella of counseling. So in this area, they have the consultation and supervision system with the field family experts and also university level professors. And I have been involved in this area last 4 years with several centers. And there are a lot of challenges, and there are so many complex issues with this, the population. After working with this area, Health Family Center, and all these 5 different areas, I have been intensively involved as a consultant and researcher and also supervisor level. And we had developed many different models and the services, but my background is mostly there are many different things that we can integrate together, but my personal interest was about strengths model. And interestingly, strengths model was one of the big branch model was developed from University of Kansas. And that was very interesting to know, and I have been using that last 3 years. And then my background was solution-focused model that I was trained in University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee when I got my master's degree. So I have been strongly combining 2 models, and nowadays we are using a lot of the empowerment model, and which is very meaningful for these people who came to Korea, and they feel very depressed and stressed, and they are very isolated, and they feel like they don't have much to do for the Korean society, but it's not so. So we developed the model. This one is actually slightly different, but I can use this one as 2 different ways. Number one is when they come to get the service, we encourage them to attend the program. So they attend the program like a language class. They attend. So that's the beginning of the cooperation. The second level of cooperation would be not only international ladies, but also their husband, Korean husband, come as a couple. That's a good sign. That's more collaboration, because we want to intervene not only individually, but also as a couple and family. So they come and attend as a family, usually as a couple. And then they come, later they lead the group, not only just receiving the service, they begin to slowly have a power to do their own the service for themselves. And then finally, when they empowered enough, not only they are helping themselves, they're helping others. They are interested in agency's interest or even community interest. So we developed this model, empowerment model or collaboration model, into the multicultural family and wives. And also we used this one to the general population of children in poverty and their families. Interestingly, it worked. We tried 3 years with the several WeStart centers, and we found out that they developed their own model, but it was exactly matching with this model. They started with parenting class and support group and hobby class, and later they developed themselves as a volunteer group. It took 1 year to 3 years from agency to agency. Now, main factors that are contributing to successful cross-cultural collaboration, that it's very general, but I cannot emphasize enough about this. I think we should start with the finding clients' strengths. We can use that from their cultural background, their language. Obviously, they use different language. That can be a strength, and their goals, ambitions, the experience from their own country. Usually for the wives, because they are really most people that to be empowered with their husband and success. Also, we found that working with a family unit rather than individual wives from different countries. So we can start with maybe wife, but later invite the husband and family, and later even extended family is very important. In Korea, the relationship between the daughter-in-law and mother-in-law is very unique, not very smooth, a lot of conflict. So it's very important to include those relations. Working in that area is very, very important. And also we should be very open-minded and be very sensitive to their needs. I mean, it's a very general one, but again, it's so important. Without this, we cannot develop. The principle that I thought we have developed and used so far was work as a team. We have an interdisciplinary team that usually integrates service. They have a social work and education and health experts are working together. And also, we have to work with clients as a team. Rather than clients, we can call them collaborator, consultant, co-worker, rather than service recipient. And utilize multicultural family as the resources rather than their only the service recipient. They are wonderful resources. They can teach language, they can teach cultural, they can be wonderful, wonderful resources. So when we are using them as a resource, the stigma about the getting services automatically gone. They are empowered. And we should be sensitive to their collaboration level. I put a couple of challenges here and difficulties. Agency really has a lot of difficulty in agencies because of this complexity of issues and lack of clinical skills and lack of those theoretical and empirical background. Multicultural family also have some difficulties of shame and dependence. And myself as a researcher and educator, I found that I sometimes want to see the progress right away. So I need really some patience, and also I have to integrate with some other researchers and collaborators. That research and this education should go together rather than too much abstract or too much practical but not any ground. They should be together. So how am I doing? Do I have a couple of minutes? Okay. So after working with these children, my background is children in poverty and families and substance abuse and family therapy. And overall the family issues. A lot of these issues are, even though I talked about domestic issues with the numbers, are very internationally related. Imagine those ladies from different countries, that how we can help them, and not only help them to adjust in Korea and new family, but also we help them because the Korean new family has extended family all over the world in Asian countries. Now we didn't talk about those adoptive children because now is the time that they're coming back to Korea, visiting Korea to learn, or even they try to find their biological parents. And I had about 77 adopted children, our young adult last year visiting our school, and we ran the program. And all the emotions and difficulties they are going through, all the needs they have about identity issues and adjusting and settling down and new relationship with Korea and Korean people, And some of them, they found biological parents and they have to work with those areas. So there's a huge need to develop theory and practical things to help them as opposed the adoption service. And North Korean defectors, it's a huge one. That's a preparation for the unification. And all these areas are huge, and I just want to supplement a little bit with the specific numbers, what issues we have, and some of the issues we are just tackling right now, but there are a lot of things that we can learn from the experience you have in the United States, which is a melting pot, and also we may have to do our own way. Thank you.
We can have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering, can you say some more about how is it that they are coming to Korea?
How?
Yeah, why?
Why and how, I guess. Why? Because, well, when we were poor, after Korean War, not many things Korean women could enjoy. Education was low and very poor. So some of the Korean women found American GI to have their the needs met. Now Korean woman is very educated. We would say that more than 90% high school graduate go to college nowadays, and more than 50% college freshmen are women nowadays, and graduate are women too. So Korean woman has a very good social status nowadays, very independent. They want to marry late, or they don't want to marry. They don't find the Korean man enough attractive, seriously. So they don't want to marry, or late. So Korean men cannot marry. So now Korean men try to find the ladies outside, and on the contrary, some of the ladies in different countries, they find their needs can be met through the marriage with the Korean man. So it's opposite. They come various ways. I put the data there. They come through their friends who married before, and they kind of talk to their friends, relatives, and family. Huge chunk could be through the professional agency. There are many agencies, matchmaking agencies in Korea, everywhere, Seoul and everywhere. And they even say, I have a Vietnamese ladies, I have a Chinese, they have their special countries and some special areas. That also brings a lot of issues and some of the advocacy and human rights issues. But Korean government put some regulation in terms of how to provide professional services and how to regulate those things last a couple of years. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that these international marriages is what's making the divorce rate increase?
Very much. Well, yes and no. I cannot remember right now, but if my memory is correct, the divorce rate was that's I'm sorry. It's not helping the divorce rate. Divorce rate, the hierarchy is the general all population. The only last 10 years of the international marriage was about 11 to 13%. But they are not divorcing yet. They may not. I hope they not. It's the divorce rate is hierarchy is really about the general the population one. But if I look at the difficulties they're going through in marriage and family, they have a double challenge. Obviously, the relationship itself is very difficult in marriage, and also there is an age difference. Korean men who are marrying international women are quite older, so there are much big age gap between the ladies from different countries and Korean men. So that gives another challenge for them. So I cannot remember the divorce rate between international marriage and general Korean population marriage, but they are struggling seriously, and some of them are not divorcing because there's no other choice than endurance. So that doesn't divorce rate doesn't say much about the difficulties they are going through, but some of the separation and the marriage difficulties and family violence and child abuse is not lower than the general population, and some of the researchers say it's quite higher. Mhm. Thank you very much.
제가 쓴 것인데요. 공화를 즐긴다는 뜻입니다.
This is about the Wansan Gonghwa, as you see here, which means enjoying, perceiving empty flower or phantom flower.
제가 10년 전에 스토퍼 플레이스 아파트먼트에서 1400년 전에 한국의 학생 원효가 쓴 책에서 공화라는 말을 발견하고 매우 기뻐한 적이 있습니다.
I was here about 10 years ago and stayed in Stoffer Place apartment of KU, and I was very happy to find Gonghwa found in Taesung Gishinron. That's the big book written by scholar and monk Wonhyo. It was written 1400 years ago.
공화에 관한 우화는 다음과 같습니다.
The episode about Gonghwa is like this.
어떤 사람이 어느 날 하늘을 쳐다봤는데요. 아름다운 꽃이 하늘에 황홀하게 아름다운 꽃이 피어 있었습니다. 혹시 그 꽃이 3000년 만에 한 번씩 피는 좋은 일이 있을 때마다 피는 우담바라는 거 하는 꽃은 아닐지 모르겠어요.
Once upon a time there was a person who looked at the sky and found a beautiful, mysterious book. And maybe that is the mysterious flower called Udambara, which will appear only every 3,000 years in the sky.
그때 그 사람은 눈병에 걸려 있었는데요. 눈병이 나자 다시 그 꽃을 볼 수 없었습니다.
But that person had the eye disease, but when disease healed, he couldn't see that flower anymore.
그것이 공화입니다.
That is Gonghwa.
여러분 제가 보이시죠?
You can see me, right?
제가 공인인 줄.
Maybe I am Gong-in, the phantom person, not flower.
Maybe.
Maybe.
여러분이 제 눈에는 매우 아름답게 보입니다만 저는 여러분들이 공인일 줄 모른다는 생각을 지금 합니다.
You look very nice to me, but I also maybe you are Gong-in, maybe you're phantom people.
우리가 인식하고 있는 모든 것은 이 공화와 같은 것일 수도 있습니다. 그것들이 비록 헛것일지라 하더라도 우리는 그걸 즐길 가치가 있다 하는 것입니다. 그래서 제가 쓴 글씨의 의미는 그런 것입니다.
Maybe all the objects you are enjoying maybe Gong something, even though it's Gonghwa or Gong-in or Gong something, phantom, and empty something, we need to enjoy it.
아무튼 이 공화의 우화는 첫째, 우리 밖에 있는 사물들이 우리의 인식 영역으로 들어올 때는 편집에서 들어온다는 사실입니다. 우리 밖의 사물들은 눈, 귀, 코에 의해서 잘리고 더해지고 또 인식을 관리하는 우리 마음에 의해서도 새롭게 해석됩니다.
The lesson from this Gonghwa or Gong-in is this. When we perceive something that is the edited perception through our senses like eyes, nose, and ears, and even skins.
내가 인식하고 있는 것은 공화처럼 이 세상에 존재하지 않은 것일 수도 있고 존재하지만 그것이 내 마음과 감각에 의해서 편집돼 가지고 있는 또 다른 것일 수도 있습니다.
Therefore, the object I sense or enjoy right now would be the one which do not exist or does exist, but maybe it's edited through my senses.
저 밖에 있는 것과 내가 인식한 것은 다릅니다. 마치 카메라의 피사체하고 카메라에 맺힌 영상이 다른 것과 같습니다.
So the existing object and perceived object by me is different. Like object perceived by camera and the image and pictures are different ones.
둘째, 이 우화는 내 밖에 있는 사물과 사람을 바로 보기 위해서는 그 사물 자체에 집중하기보다는 관심을 모으기보다는 내 자신한테 관심을 모으라는 교훈을 전해주고 있습니다.
The second lesson from this episode is this: to see the object close, the objectively, I have to look into myself inside rather than looking outside.
유교에서도 자기 자신을 보라고 그러는데요. 유교에서는 남을 향한 공부보다는 내 자신을 향한 공부를 하라고 합니다.
The similar lessons we can find in Confucianism, which says we have to look inside ourselves rather than looking outside at others.
유교의 경전에는 이런 말이 있습니다. 고전의 지혜를 배우면서 생각하지 않는 것은 앞뒤가 막혀서 답답하고 생각만 하고 고전의 지혜를 배우지 않은 사람은 위태롭다.
There is a very famous the lesson in the Confucius teaching, which says if you do not learn, and it's very blocked. But if you learn but do not make for yourself, which is dangerous.
도교의 경전의 장자에 나오는 얘기를 여러분들에게 들려주겠습니다.
I would like to introduce the story from Chuncheon from Taoism.
국경에 살고 있는 어여쁜 여성이 군인들에게 강제로 끌려가게 되었습니다.
There was a beautiful woman who was kidnapped by the soldiers to send someplace.
슬퍼서 매우 통곡했습니다.
She lamented and was very, very sad and cried.
잡혀간 곳은 궁궐이었습니다.
But she found out the place she was kidnapped to was the palace.
첫날부터 맛있는 음식을 먹고 밤에 좋은 침대에서 왕과 함께 잠을 잤습니다.
And from the beginning day, she ate delicious food and she was with the king.
그래서 후회했습니다. 내가 왜 잡혀올 때 그렇게 통곡했던가?
She regretted that she was crying when she was kidnapped.
우리가 죽지 않으려고 하는데 죽고 난 다음에 우리가 후회할지 어떻게 알겠느냐?
We try not to die, but who knows when you die, you will be very happy and not regret.
이 말은 우리들을 죽으라는 말은 아닙니다. 심지어 우리가 죽지 않아야 된다는 생각까지도 다시 들여다보라는 말이겠죠.
I'm not saying that we have to die only or try to die, but I'm saying that we have to look at the effort or thinking to live longer or not to die. We have to look at those motivation too.
도교에서는 아름다움과 추함은 서로 만든다. 이것이 아름다우면 저것이 아름답지 않다. 이렇게 생각합니다.
In Taoism, the teaches that ugliness can make beauty. Beauty can make ugliness. They are not independent.
결국 아름다움이나 추함도 우리 마음에서 만들어진 것이기 때문에 우리 마음을 먼저 들여다보라고 얘기합니다.
Even those beauties and ugliness are made inside of us. So we have to look at our inside first.
이러한 사유 방식은 문화적으로 적합한 사회복지 실천과 사회복지 정책을 위해서 매우 유용하다고 생각합니다.
These ways of thinking, thought can be applied to develop the social service practice and policies.
저는 켄다 교수의 책에서 Value Credit에 대해서 읽었습니다. 저는 이것을 문화적으로 적절한 사회복지 실천을 위해서 자기 가치를 먼저 들여다보는 것으로 이해하고 있습니다.
I read the book by Professor Canda, which is saying about value clarity. I understood this as a social work practitioner. We have to examine ourselves, our mind and our heart first before we practice for others.
우리가 자기 내면을 들여다보지 않고 남을 평가하거나 도울 때는 다음과 같은 문제들이 생깁니다.
If we don't examine ourselves inside and try to help others, maybe some problems can happen.
저는 지렁이를 매우 사랑합니다. 지렁이를 잡아다가 그래서 사랑하는 지렁이를 위해서 저녁에 잘 마른 침대 위에 편안하게 눕힌 다음 잘 마른 이불을 덮어주었습니다.
I love worms, W-O-R-M, worm. I love worm very much. So I took that worm and took it to my very dry bed and put the warm comforter so that worm can have a good sleep.
잘 자라고 말했습니다.
I said good
그런데
night.
제가 마른 침대와 마른 이불을 좋아하므로 지렁이도 당연하게 그것을 좋아하리라고 믿었습니다.
Because I like dried bedding and dried comforter. I thought the worm will like it too.
아침에 일어나서 지렁이의 안부를 살피려 하였더니 지렁이는 이미 죽어 있었습니다.
When I get up in the morning, I try to say good morning, my friend. I found the worm dead.
저는 슬펐습니다.
I was sad.
그래서 지렁이를 위해서 멋진 장례식을 준비했는데요.
So I prepared for the funeral for the worm.
그런데 여기 저 이메일이 작동이 안 돼 가지고요. funeral song 하고 이 상에 나가는 장면을 보여드리고 싶었는데 아쉽습니다.
There was a picture from the internet about the funeral, the picture and the songs and chant, but sorry that we cannot show to you right now.
미안합니다.
I'm sorry.
저는 이런 멋진 장례식을 통해서 마음의 위로를 받았습니다.
So as you can see, the Korean funeral is very comforting. It's beautiful coffin transport, and people are chanting and singing. So through those the funeral, I was comforted.
그러나 고통스럽게 죽어간 지렁이를 살릴 수는 없었습니다.
But I couldn't make the worm alive again.
지렁이에 대한 진정한 이해는 내 마음의 틀에 대한 성찰로부터 시작했어야 됩니다.
I should have looked at myself first, rather than trying to help the worm first.
다른 예를 하나 들어보겠습니다.
There's another example.
최근 일본에서 지진이 발생했는데요. 많은 사람들이 고통스럽게 죽어갔습니다.
So there was a big earthquake in Japan. A lot of people suffered and killed.
한국의 굉장히 큰 교회의 어느 유명한 목사는 이렇게 얘기했습니다.
There was a very famous preacher in Korea and who preached like this.
일본 사람들은 예수를 믿지 않았기 때문에 저렇게 고통을 받는다고 이야기했습니다.
The Japanese people, they got suffering because they don't trust Jesus Christ.
도교에서는 하느님을 뜻하는 하늘과 땅은 우리를 사랑하지 않는다고 얘기합니다.
In Taoism, it says the heaven and earth don't love us or don't hate us.
이런 관점에 따르면 하늘과 땅 그리고 이것들을 주관하는 하느님은 나도 너도 하느님을 믿는 사람도 믿지 않은 사람도 한국 사람도 일본 사람도 사랑하지 않을 뿐만 아니라 미워하지도 않을 것입니다.
From this perspective, from Taoism, the heavens and earth and the gods, governing gods, will not hate or love whether you are Korean or Japanese or believers or non-believers.
하느님이 누군가를 미워하거나 사랑한다면 그것은 우리가 그렇게 생각하는 것은 아닐까요?
If we think that the God loves or hates someone because that's what you think the God says.
유명한 그 목사가 자기의 내면의 사유 방식을 먼저 들여다봤다면 그런 얘기를 하지 않았을 것입니다.
If that famous pastor was examining himself inside, he would not preach like that.
지렁이를 죽일 나는 우물 밖을 알 수 없는 우물 안의 개구리와 같고 일본인의 아픔을 이해하지 못하는 그 목사는 봄과 가을을 알지 못하는 매미와 같습니다.
Myself, who killed the worm, is like a frog in the closeted well. The preacher who preached like that would be like, what is meme? I didn't prepare. Locust, without not knowing the spring or fall.
제가 제 마음의 틀을 들여다보지 않으면 저는 지렁이를 진정으로 사랑할 수 없고 그 유명한 목사님이 자기 생각을 먼저 들여다보지 않으면 지진으로 고통받는 일본 사람들의 아픔을 이해할 수 없을 것입니다.
If I do not examine inside of my mind and heart and the frame of the thought, I cannot love the worm truly. In same way, the preacher, without examining himself, cannot understand the difficulties and sufferings of those Japanese.
그러나 한국의 사회복지학계와 교육 현장에서는 이런 주장이 설득력을 갖기가 매우 어렵습니다.
But nowadays, in social work field and education field, this kind of ways of thinking doesn't have much appealing to them.
한국에서는 실증주의가 과도하게 유행하고 있습니다. 특히 시라이트 밀스가 주장한 추상적 경험주의라고 불리는 설문지 분석 연구가 성행하고 있습니다.
In Korea, the empiricism is very popular, especially the abstracted empiricism from C. Wright Mills with the survey method is very, very popular.
한국의 학자들과 학생들이 너무나 많은 설문지를 사회복지기관 종사자들에게 돌리기 때문에 그들이 설문지 응답 부담에 시달리고 있습니다.
The social service agencies and the employees, the workers over there are so much burdened or even harassed by the survey questions, the project from the scholars and student.
그래서 제가 한국의 사회복지관 종사자들의 설문지 부담에 관한 연구를 설문지를 가지고 하려고
So I
합니다.
have a very good plan that I would like to do survey with those social service agencies about how much they are harassed and burdened with the survey.
이것을 통해서 우리는 한국에서 설문지 연구가 얼마나 성행하고 있는가를 알 수 있습니다.
So you will see that how much popular this survey method in Korea.
이런 실증주의와 경험주의는 내면을 보지 않고 밖에 있는 것에만 시선을 모으게 합니다.
This empiricism is focusing on the outside appearance rather than looking inside.
실증주의에 몰입하면 실증주의도 외부 사물을 우리의 일정한 감각과 사유의 틀을 통해서 편집하는 방법 중에 하나라는 사실을 알지 못합니다.
If we are focusing on the empiricism, we forget about the fact that even empiricism is also the one way of edited version of looking at others.
그래서 저는 실증주의를 벗어난 사유 방식이 한국의 사회복지 교육과 연구 현장에서 가르쳐지고 연구되기를 희망합니다.
I hope that many different ways of thought can be practiced and educated aside from the empiricism in Korea.
미국에서도 그리 되기를 희망합니다.
I hope so also in United States.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Becoming my mouth, English mouth, yeah?
We have time for some questions.
Oh, should I translate into Korean? Yes.
I wanted to know your thoughts about this kind of interconnectedness and East meeting West, and it seems like a lot of Western models are used for research and social work research stuff. But what you might think that is something Eastern or maybe even more specifically Korean that you would hope the West would start to integrate
한국 거 중에서는 어떤 것이 특별히 미국에서 외국에서 사용할 수 있는 도움이 될 만한 게 뭐가 있을지.
이 타오이즘이나 불교 이런 인식론이 굉장히 유용하리라고 저는 생각합니다.
I think that the ways of thinking in Taoism and also Buddhism can be very useful for the Western practitioners and scholars.
예컨대 켄다 교수님이 spiritual diversity in social work practice에 대해서 얘기를 하는데
네.
그러한 인사이트가 지혜가 타오이즘과 불교에는 매우 많이 들어 있습니다.
Some of the insight the Professor Canda is the teaching through the books and through the lectures. You can find very rich those insight and thought in Taoism, Buddhism.
그리고 컨스트럭션 티오리나 피나미널 현상학적 이론은 불교의 유식 이론을 알면 굉장히 많은 도움을 받을 수 있습니다. 유식 이론. 불교의 사이칼로지, 불교의 심리학이라고 하세요.
The
컨스트럭션 티오리하고 현상 피나미널.
The main principles from constructivism and phenomenology will be also found in
Buddhism psychology.
in the thought in Buddhism and psychology in Buddhism. So there are the similarities.
오늘 다 시간이 없어서 뭐.
Yes.
Okay, so with the worm story,
Mm-hmm.
you looked inside yourself, you knew that you like warm, dry bedding, and you put the worm in the bed. Wouldn't it make more sense to look inside the worm and see what the worm likes to sleep in? And then maybe the worm wouldn't die?
그러니까 본인이 교수님이 좋아하시는 거, 내가 좋아하는 것만 먼저 생각해서 그걸 해줬는데 먼저 그 웜을 들여다보고 웜이 필요한 게 뭔가를 생각했더라면 괜찮지 않았을까라는 얘기인데.
그런데 제가 물론 그래야 되겠지만 저는 어려서 사랑하는 사람을 위해서는 반드시 저녁에 자리를 깔아드리고 아침에는 안녕히 주무셨냐고 물어야 되는데 웜을 진정으로 사랑하면서도 내 그런 철학을 내 마음에만 이렇게 집착돼 있기 때문에 웜의 그런 사정을 알 수가 없었다.
I have a habit or tradition, or I have been taught that if I love someone or respect, I have to prepare for the good bedding and dry bedding and nice comforter and help that person to have a good rest. I was stick to my tradition and about my education, and because I was so stick and immersed with my habit that I didn't have any room to think about what warm would like.
먼저 자기를 들여다보아야 남을 제대로 이해할 수 있다. First.
Once you look at yourself first and examine whether you are, and then you can help others. Still confusing?
I'm just wondering if he would be as willing to go lie down in a bed that the worm considered comfortable.
만약에 먼저 가셔서 그 침대에서 한번 경험을 해보시고 이 침대가 지렁이가 정말 편안할 그런 침대인지를 생각해 보셨더라면 어땠을까?
그런데 생각할 수 없었어요. 내 마음이 내 생각이 항상 옳다고 믿고 있었기 때문에.
Because I believed that what I thought, what I prepared to be best and true, and I didn't have any room to think about it.
나는 항상 옳기 때문에.
Because I'm always right. What I'm doing is always right.
Okay, but we want to get to the point of thinking what the other wants
Mhm.
instead of just
Right.
Right. Okay.
One more. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to clarify the key concept of Taoism elaborated by Professor Park. I was watching TW, this educational television broadcasted in Chicago. There were three panelists, including a monk, Baptist minister, and a Catholic priest. Question was how they approach to human problems. And the Catholic priest said, I would go through the institutional system approach. And the Baptist minister said, I would, based on community system. And then monk waited for a while and said, I would start with my internal mind. So external, institutional, and community versus internal self. So I thought when Professor Park mentioned about not looking into introspectively what are the preconceived notion in interpreting external realities, and you tend to make mistakes. And I think my question is this. We do not teach our students introspective self-examination unless you go through some kind of religious training. Do you think the social workers, where I think we are more doers than being with, as Mother Teresa was critical of social workers because we tend to do rather than being with. And so some questions are raised early on, how we could apply the Eastern thinking to our practice. That question I'd like to raise again so we can have some discussions. So Professor Park, you didn't have enough time to elaborate this. You have been teaching social work, and I wonder how you have developed your own way of helping students to start with a self-examination. We call critical thinking in social work, but not enough to have really look into our insight. We don't think have a curricula designed to really mature our thinking process.
Yes. 이렇게 비편적인 생각, 자신의 내면을 들여다보고 자신을 살피는 그런 그 말씀을 해주셨는데 그것이 중요하다고 그 사회복지사들이 그걸 하는 것이 굉장히 중요하다고 말씀해 주셨는데 그것을 교육에 어떻게 커리큘럼이라든가 교육과정에 어떻게 그것을 준비해서 가르치셔 왔는지 어떻게 그거를 응용해 오셨는지 써오셨는지 그 예를 조금 들어봐 주시겠습니까?
하나는 그 메타포를 많이 제가 메타포 그 비유법을 많이 사용했는데 그 비유법을 수업 시간 비유법에 관련 에피소드를 굉장히 많이 사용합니다.
네, 저는 그 은유 비유법을 I'm using a lot of metaphors during the class.
제가 그 칼 막스의 책을 읽으면서 비유법이 많은 것을 보고 굉장히 감명을 받았습니다.
So I found a lot of metaphors in the works of the Karl Marx, and it was very impressive.
그리고 나서 맹자의 책에서 또 비유법을 보고 깜짝 놀랐습니다.
And there were a lot of metaphors by the works of Mencius, 맹자.
장자의 책을 보고 또 한 번 놀랐습니다.
Also, I was surprised impressively by the works of 장자.
부디즘 책을 보고 또 한 번
I
놀랐습니다.
was surprised again by the Buddhism books.
그래서 저는 메타포를 많이 사용하려고 노력합니다.
I tried to use a lot of metaphors during the class.
또 하나는 이 캔다 교수님이 사용하시는 것처럼 그 벨이나 종이나 이런 것을 치면서 잠시 이 명상, 메디테이션 하는 시간을 가지려고 합니다.
And another way that I'm using for this critical thinking or examining yourself is that I try to give a student a time to meditate before class. Sometimes I'm using bell ringing so that student can take some time to examine themselves.
That's all.
Those things that I'm using.
I can add one illustration, the metaphor. I use a metaphor a lot in family therapy. When you have a salt in a small cup of water, it's so salty you cannot drink. In other words, in a crisis, many people are so overwhelmed with the stress situation, and then people cannot see beyond it. But once you put that amount of salt in a large basin of water, saltiness are muted, and you can drink it. In other words, enlarging context, you can minimize the impact of stress. And I think that's one illustration metaphor can be used.
And when I would like to add one thing myself too. This I found that the agencies and social workers trying to have the record or accomplishment, how many things they accomplished, and sometimes even how many numbers of services or programs or referrals they make to help the multicultural family. They believe that the more numbers or services would be better for the multicultural family, but that's based upon their thinking and their evaluation, not even talking to the multicultural family, and they just decided by looking at the paperwork, and they made all different kind of coordination of the services and 10 different kind of services with the language, interpretation, and support groups and all different things. But if I look at the service coordination plan, it may help, but it actually harassing them too much, taking all their time by the name of service coordination, and there's no room at all for their free time for the multicultural family. There's no no ideas or the inputs from them, but it's for them to show off how much they did as an agency or as a social worker, so that they can show that they did a lot of things to the fund purpose and also their own practice purpose.
Do we have another question or comment from the audience?
I have a question.
That's a good idea, thank you.
My question is one to clarify. Professor Park used the term empiricism.
Empiricism.
What? Empiricism?
Empiricism.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry for my pronunciation.
students aren't phantom students, are you? Okay, good. Here's another one.
Thanks. This is more of a comment, just in line with the discussion about metaphors. I have to agree that I think they're a really powerful tool to connect with individuals, especially with the example of the worm story, how we may not, I myself may not be able to contextualize life, from an Eastern perspective, but I can certainly understand a worm and what that looks like, and it gives me a much better opportunity to connect on that multicultural perspective. So thank you, and good point.
Would you mind translating for Professor?
네.
이메일을 어쨌든 가가지고 꼭 상의하고 그 사운드 수업을 한번 들어보시고.
You might have the information about the internet address there for the one we couldn't hear today with the funeral chanting and those funeral ceremony. You might want to check that out and enjoy yourself.
It's very beautiful. Some other question or comments?
This is a question for, it's so weird to use this thing, is it Kyung Kim? If you see the same movement going on with mental disabilities as you do with physical disabilities in Korea.
No, mental disability is different right now. Many people are still in hiding from their house or from community. But there is new movement. But I think in here, because I work with the mental health office for 5 years while I'm here, I met a lot of people who have mental illness, but they are work researcher or consumers, and then they are service providers. But still, we don't have people with mental disability do not have the service provider, and then they work as the consumer movement. But I think it will really come out soon, I think. Hoping.
Would anyone else like to make a comment before we have a closing? Yes.
Just something really quick. When you mentioned that in Taoism, beauty and ugliness are combined, that they're interconnected, interdependent. That is something that I find more and more commonly in the concept of resilience, and how difficult times, adversity can really bring that strength from people. So something that is part of very long tradition is something quite new in research.
Good idea.
All right, well, maybe we can make some closing comments then. First of all, I really want to thank all four of the panelists again for your wonderful ideas, not only knowledge and a lot of practice wisdom, but deep personal experience and insight. And so I hope that you all can give them another round of applause and appreciation. Each of these presenters are actually very special to me in various ways. Professor Lee has been my teacher and mentor and model in many ways since 1980 when I first met him as a new MSW student at Ohio State. So I wanted to give a special word of thanks and appreciation to him. It's been wonderful. You know, if you have the opportunity to connect with a mentor or teacher and stay in relationship over many years, it's a really special and wonderful thing. And in fact, that's something about Korean culture that is much more emphasized than here. The kind of mentor or teacher-student relationship can be one that is very close, something almost like parent-child, of course of a little different nature, but it can become very significant and continue lifelong. That's one thing from Korean culture that I have especially appreciated to learn. And the other panelists as well, they are friends, colleagues. Professor Kim is a former student. They've all been here at KU as visiting scholars, and so that kind of partnerships that we can exchange and connect with people across countries in social work, it is absolutely fantastic. It opens both sides' minds to new possibilities of thinking, of doing things. So I think what they are exhibiting in their presentations also is that cross-cultural collaboration for social work can become mutually beneficial. It's not Americans exporting ideas or policies or practices to be adopted by others. And likewise within the U.S., it's not Euro-Americans imposing or simply implanting ideas and practices and policies for other peoples within this country, but it needs to be a mutual, respectful, collaborative, and skillful approach. And also in that process, both sides are transformed. So I have to say that my life has been tremendously benefited through the many years of my connections with Korea, Korean people, certainly including my Korean wife. So I mention that too because the personal level of transformation, when you're engaged deeply in cross-cultural relations, is very, very significant. It's not just head knowledge, it's not just learning some skills, but your whole life can be transformed if you want it to be, if you let it be. So I hope this gave you a little taste of that. So again, thank you all for your participation, and thanks again to the presenters. 안녕히 가십시오. Bye bye.